Some legs now for our bunny because we're almost there. We've just got some legs and tail to finish before we're ready to sew it all together. So on my here's one I've made earlier, you will see the forelegs like so. Now if let me move that out of the way. If I show you, say, how do we start? We start on the right side. So this will be the one we're going to do in a minute. I'm just going to show you really where to pick up, and you're then going to cast some more stitches on. So I want to just do the early part, the picking up, the putting the stitches on and then marking it up, because after that it's all techniques that you're familiar with. There's the short row shaping, and we've got obviously the standard video. We've got a standard video for that, but by this time you'll be really familiar with short row shaping. So I think we'll just have a very quick look where to pick up, how to add on those extra stitches, and then we'll look together at sewing up the forelegs. We'll do it that way. Okay, so we're going to be starting on Bunny's right foreleg, so don't forget that's the right side as if Bunny was looking out. Okay, and we're going to be starting, we'll know it's the right side because we're going to be starting with the right side of the work facing us and with the head to the left. So we marked the space for the foreleg earlier on. You might have safety pins in there, you might have a couple of pieces of spare yarn. However you've marked it, you've got a point, or you've got a little space between two marked points like so, and that is where we're going to be picking up and knitting our stitches. We're using yarn A and D held together again, and nothing different to what we haven't done already. So we're going to, as I've done before, I tend to put my first stitch in the first place marked and my last stitch in the last place marked. So that is how I'm going to continue, because it seems to have stood us in good stead. Now I've put my first stitch through that marker, and I think, how many rows have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, we're almost at the right number of rows. I think we've got maybe 2 more rows than we need. I could be counting it wrong. Can't get this yarn apart to get going. So we're going to just make sure, I'm going to put my last stitch, as I always do, in the last place I've marked. So I've got 1 in the beginning, 1 at the end. That's 2 off of 6 stitches, which means I've got to just do 4 in the middle here. So that's okay. I can eye that, I think. I don't need to worry too much about marking things off. And I'm just rolling the stitch so that I'm getting to the very edge of the work. I'm trying to pick up on that very edge row. Whoops, I've dropped my second yarn there. 2, 3. Trying to keep it all on the same line if I can, just to try and keep it sort of neat, so you can see they're all kind of coming out of the same row of stitches. 2, 4, 5. And again, I would say please don't worry too much about any slight unevenness. There's your 6 stitches there, 2, 4, 6, because they will even up as you work them. Okay, so you can remove those markers now because they've served their purpose, but keep them nearby because we're going to need one in a moment. Okay, so I've got 6 stitches on my needle now that I've picked up, and I've taken my stitch markers out. I'm on the first row of the foreleg, so I've got to increase now by making 6 more stitches. So that's the normal way we've been doing that, and that is cable cast on. So I'm just going to turn the work because I need to be kind of using 2 needles for this. And I'll start in the normal way. Don't forget we have got a standalone cable cast on, but if you're at this stage you'll have done this enough times, I would imagine. So just sort of semi-knit the first one and off we go. This is 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And what we're going to do now is add a marker, and this marker is going to be for the inner foreleg marker, and that's just going to sit right at the end of those stitches that we've just cast on. Ooh. There we go. Okay, so before we can start knitting the bulk of this, you're just going to purl all the way across, and that will put you in the position where you are set up with 12 stitches and sort of off you go really. So I'll just purl across and show you what that looks like. Right, there we go. I've purled all the way across those stitches, so there's 12 stitches on my needle, and it is in this kind of half attached, half not attached way. Now that's very like what we did with the ears, if you remember. We had partly attached, then we extended a bit and had this sort of extended part that was not attached, and worked the ear upwards like so. So the forelegs are worked in the same way. Let's have a look at one that I've done. Okay, so you can see the starting point with this part that's attached and part that's not attached, and you can see the few rows of stocking stitch, and then you can see the shaping that starts to happen with those short rows to create this little paw shape, and it kind of folds where it needs to go, so it's you know, it's very clever with the shaping. It will fold it how it needs to go. So I won't go through making that. It's really a small sort of straightforward piece and nothing different that you haven't done already. So although that's not quite the next thing in the pattern, I think I'll just show you how to sew this part up. Right, before we leave forelegs alone, I wanted to just have a quick word with you about the left foreleg. Just this one thing that we may not have done yet, and that is pick up and knit stitches purl-wise. Up until this point, we've done them knit-wise, and purl-wise is only slightly different. Knit-wise, we would be expecting to put our needle through the work from the back to the front and wrap our yarn and pull it through. And purl-wise, we just come from the front of the work to the back, so from the right side of the work through to the wrong side. So I've put my needle through, I'm going to wrap it now in the yarn and bring it through, and that is it, one stitch picked up purl-wise. So let me just do that one more time. So I'm just coming from the right side of the work through to the wrong side of the work, wrapping the yarn and pulling it through. So right side through to wrong side. Right, actually it's a little bit too far, let's try that again. Right side through to wrong side, wrap and pull through. So that is picking up stitches purl-wise, and I'm going to do 6 of those for the left foreleg. Right, so to sew forelegs up, we're going to be using the mattress stitch method again. So here's Bunny's right foreleg. So you can see that's the little piece we just made with the extension over there that we cast on 6 more stitches with. A little bit of short row shaping to give it that little kick out at the bottom. So mattress stitch, we've already had a look at that in an earlier video, but in case you didn't look at that one, let's have a little go through again. I've just thread up my needle with a length of just yarn A. It's not necessary to use yarn A and D together. It won't be visible, but you can if you want to, that's up to you. And to start with, we're going to fold it in half so that the stitch marker that we put in matched the other stitch marker that I've taken out. But truthfully, it's just folding it in half, sort of corner to corner. So I'm going to remove that to get that out of the way. Okay, so if I fold that like that, we're going to be, sewing up and along and across this edge to close up that paw. So mattress stitch, let's give that a go. Right, so to start with, I'm going to just anchor my thread over on this side somewhere, just to stop it going anywhere. This isn't sort of starting mattress stitch proper as yet. I am then, when we're doing mattress stitch, we want to try and use the very edge stitch of each row. Now it can be a little tricky because we've gone in and out and done some increasing and decreasing and all sorts here, but as far as we can, we want to try and use that look at that outside edge of stitches And between that outside edge of stitches and the next stitch in, if I pull apart, you will see, as an example, there, bars that run between the 2 rows of stitches. And those are what we're going to use when we are mattress stitching. So I'm going to start by coming through to this side, so this corner of the foreleg, and I'm going to put my needle right through the bottom corner stitch. So if you see, I've gone behind the V of that stitch and just pull that through a little. All right. And I am then going to find the next bar up and pick that one up, okay, if you can see that. So I'm going up through that next bar. Now I'm going to come across back to the other side, so it's a kind of matching side. It's matching side on the left over here. Find that bottom corner stitch again, which I think is this one, and I'm going to go through from front to back and under 2 bars. So can you see my needle has gone under 2 bars, and pull the thread through. Okay, so it's going to sort of have the effect of this sort of corsetry lacing. I don't know why I've shouted that, but you know, there we are. So coming back over to the other side again and finding where my yarn has come out. Can you see that's my yarn coming out? I'm not pulling it too tight at the moment because I just want you to be able to see where the yarn's coming out. And my needle's going to go straight back in from whence it came, from whence the yarn came, and go under 1 bar and 2 bar. And pull it up and through. Then come back over to the other side, go in from whence it came, 1 bar. Okay, so this is where it starts to get tricky because my decrease has locked off that bar. There is no other bar for me, so I'm just going to go up through those stitches, and then I'll just have to, on my next pass, change course slightly. So you can see how that sort of, that little lacing effect, oops, sorry. That little lacing effect has happened, and if I give that a pull, it will close up pretty well invisibly. Can you see? Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Look, a row of stitches, another row of stitches, nothing in between. So that is what is it called? Mattress stitch. There we are. That's what mattress stitch does for you, the sort of magic that is mattress stitch. Absolutely massive fan of it over here. So don't be afraid of it because it's a brilliant thing. Do some practice on some straight bits if you like, if you're not familiar with it. Right, so now we've kind of got this slant going on. I'm going to come back in and just try and find leave 1 stitch as an outer edge and go back in to the next stitch over. So can I just tell you, if you use mattress stitch on a straight piece of work, a straight piece of knitting, it will be entirely invisible because you will be able to maintain the line going all the way up, whether it's like a seam on a jumper or something like that. It is truly fantastic. Whoever invents these things, it astounds me daily. As you can imagine, I'm regularly astounded by brilliance because it doesn't feature in my head. So sorry, this is mattress stitch and that's all I'm doing. I'm just going to keep doing that and then zipping it up for that little wow moment all the way up. Now don't pull that yarn too tight, folks, because it will break, because it's a lovely natural fibre and they will break. Okay, so just keep going back, finding where your yarn came out and following the line up. Right, so I've just got to the top. It's not as neat at the top there, that's my fault. So, but that will be hidden, so don't worry too much, but you will see it's sort of relatively neatly closed, and I'm going to just take my needle down through the top. I'm just going to try and sort of disguise that yarn by weaving it in a little, just to secure it. Again, because it's very fibrous, you can hide things nicely, and they will secure nicely as well because the yarn wants to grip. So the foreleg is already, well, it's certainly not flat. It's already got some, you know, a little bit of fill in it because of all of those ends, but I'm going to add a tiny bit of the toy fill as well. Don't want to overstuff because that will force your stitches apart, and you don't really want that. And I'm using the end of my scissors here, which again is probably not ideal if you've got a chopstick or a blunt end of, I don't know, an unsharpened pencil or something. Again, be careful of that because of marking, but just be gentle and don't overstuff, because if you look already, you can see that I'm opening up my stitches a little, and I don't want that to be too obvious. You can always come back to it when you've finished all the bits and bobs and see what you need to kind of mould and shape the piece that you're working on. It doesn't need to be massively plump. So that is a foreleg sewn up. I'm going to go and finish do exactly the same on the other side so that we've got two, and then we'll move on and look at hind legs.